Hey, what the hell are you doing walking around dressed like Star Wars?
It's Comic-Con, you idiot. We're going to the Javits Center.
Well, you're the idiots, because you three guys would never be walking together.
Yeah, you're his boss, and you two guys are enemies.
Yeah, bite me, Captain Kirk.
Hey, whoa, come on. No, that's Star Trek.
Yeah, that's two different franchises.
Yeah, sorry, guys. She doesn't know.
Nah, it's okay. I'm sorry you have to deal with that.
Let's go.
Oh, hey, come on. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Not worth it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We got an interesting one here for you today. We got Richard Schwartz going up against Will Cohen. I say interesting because Richard has been around for a long time in the debate league. He's played 11 matches, so he's played quite a few matches, but has been on a bit of a losing streak. Has lost his last few, so he's looking to kind of get back up into the winning space. However, on the other side of things, he's playing Will, and Will has played 3 matches and unfortunately has yet to get a win on the record. So Will really trying to get that one win, but I know Richard also really wanted to get back into the swing of things. So I got Brian and Kirk here to judge this one with me. Gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your day to do this, and we're just going to get right into it. This is how it's going to work. There are 4 questions based on 4 categories that the players drafted, and they are going to debate the questions that we gave them tonight before our very souls. So they're each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Kirk, Brian, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the debate. First player to 3 points, if you get 2 out of 3 votes, you get a point. First player to 3 points wins the match. Players, any questions as we kick this off?
Nope.
All right, let's do it. All right, we are going to kick this off with your first question, which was drafted by Richard in the category of the Wizarding World. Your question is, which scene in a Harry Potter film is the most exciting to watch? Richard, you get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
There's a lot of scenes in Harry Potter that are very exciting, very fun to watch. I mean, there's 8 movies, and I think what is the most exciting scene to watch is the final confrontation between Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort. Now, people will say, oh, if you read the books, you know who's going to win. But again, this is not the books. This is the movies. Cursed Child was not out yet. Fantastic Beasts were not out yet. And movies, cinema, and Hollywood have been known to change endings from the books. So we don't know what could happen. Anything could possibly happen. And the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is one of the most exciting scenes because anything can happen. I can see the rest of my time.
Okay, we're going to move over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start.
When I think the most exciting scene, I think the scene that whenever you even just think about the scene, you get chills right up your spine. And for me, that is the scene where Harry is fighting the Dementors to save Sirius in the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is a scene that that was even used in the trailers, in the promos, to punctuate the ending. Hearing him just shout out the incantation of the spell, Expecto Patronum, without even showing what's going to happen in the trailers, just cutting to black. That scene alone just causes chills on my spine. Even just talking about it is causing chills to go up my spine. This is a scene that shows all the culmination of him learning a very difficult spell at a very young age to do something he didn't even think he was possible. He didn't even think it was possible to do. No other student thought it was even possible to do this. And that's why this is easily the most pivotal and most exciting scene in a Harry Potter film.
Okay. All right. We have our scenes. We are ready to go. So 5-minute freeform. When one of you starts talking, I will throw up the 1-minute warning when the time comes. If one of you is talking over your opponent, I will throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that. It makes me sad. So 5 minutes when one of you starts.
I'll let you go first.
Okay, so the reason why the reason why the Expecto Patronum scene, the first one, is so exciting is because, again, you didn't know what was going to happen. Everything, like, all the times he attempted this, all throughout leading up to this moment, it was just an abject failure. Every single time he'd gone up against the Dementors, it was an abject failure. And so when he was finally able to do it in the most pivotal time, it was, it's just so riveting and so exciting that every Harry Potter fan and every film fan absolutely loves this moment from this movie. And this is one of the reasons why Prisoner of Azkaban is considered one of the best films in the general.
Now, you're saying you didn't know it was going to happen, but you did know it was going to happen because as soon as, Ron and Hermione did the time turner, went back in time, when you realized Hermione was the one who threw the rock, when you realized Hermione was the one who did the werewolf sign, you knew that Harry was going to cast that Patronus because you saw it earlier the first time when you actually got to see the stag. And again, it was a very cool scene where he goes, Expecto Patronum, but you don't even get to see the stag. You just see a blinding light. Again, if you would have chose the first part where you first see the stag, it might have been a better contention. But the fact is, we did see it coming. We knew, even right after when he threw the rock, that we knew they were the ones who controlling destiny. So we automatically knew Harry Potter was the one who's going to cast Patronus. Now, if you look,
except for the fact that the entire time he says, I saw my dad, I saw my dad, I saw my dad. My dad cast this, my dad cast this. So the entire time he keeps thinking, okay, my dad's going to show up. Where's my dad? Where's my dad going to show up? And then finally he sacks up and decides, okay, now I have to protect my godfather. Now I have to do this myself, and does it. And not only lands it, he does it perfectly, but it just is a wonderful scene to watching all the Dementors just scatter like cockroaches.
Spoiler, Harry's father's dead, just like Ben Parker. But again, what my scene is so exciting is because you don't know what's going to happen, because Hollywood has changed endings in books all the freaking time. You got to see the final wand fight. And you even got to see Neville kill the final Horcrux, which was the snake. That was one of the coolest scenes of all time, one of the most exciting scenes, because Neville was, in theory, the actual chosen one. But it was Neville's time to shine, and it was a fantastic scene. And watching Harry confront Voldemort, saying that Snape didn't betray him, seeing Harry finally defeat Voldemort and have the Elder Wand come back to him was one of the most perfect scenes of all time.
Yeah, it's so exciting that we have to cut off to all of his friends doing all this other cool stuff while he's just holding a wand and trying to make a stalemate.
Your whole movie, your whole scene was him just holding a wand to the sky, saying "Expecto Patronum" with the blue light. That's not that exciting. Except that
the way that it is shot, the way that the way that it's framed, he has to go in and save his godfather. All the Dementors are coming in. They're just absolutely pounding on Sirius. They're starting to pound on Harry. It is just bleak as hell, and he finally gets the strength to just go Expecto Patronum and save himself.
Harry had to save his godfather. My scene, Harry had to save the world.
Yeah, except that it's not just Harry; it's everyone helping him out, and they it's so exciting that they keep cutting away. So it's like, if it's that exciting scene,
you don't even see Harry Stag's Patronus in that scene. You just see a blue light. And I'm saying it's a powerful scene, but saying it's more exciting than seeing Voldemort and Harry duel it out. Seeing Harry finally defeat Voldemort is way more exciting than your scene is.
The fact that he
saw it the first time when you knew it's going to be Harry who did the stag. I mean, the first part when you see the stag is a lot cooler than that scene.
Except the fact that they keep on referencing it in future films. The fact that they keep on saying, oh, well, in Order of the Phoenix, for instance, they go, oh, is it true that you can cast the Patronus charm? This is a very difficult thing for a third year to do, let alone any kid.
They also keep bringing back Seamus blowing himself up in multiple movies. Just as probably more fun and exciting.
Except for the fact that this is in the trailer. This is even the trailer punctuating how great that this movie is going to be. That they're going to end on this to get everyone to go see this movie, to see him just do this. Fans of the books were waiting for this to happen, and watching it happen the way that it's done is just cinema.
Fans of the books are waiting for the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort.
And the way that they shot that was actually pretty abysmal. The fact that you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, where everyone else is doing the thing.
Your whole point Neville has
a much cooler
scene. Show up. He never showed up, and then he went Expecto Patronum.
Yeah, well, you even brought up that Neville has a much cooler scene killing Nagini than Harry does holding a wand.
Time. Okay. We are going to start closings with Will. Will, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start.
Well, it's obviously a good way to end, end the film and therefore quasi end the franchise there. The final battle is not even the most exciting battle between Voldemort and Harry. Seeing them duel in Goblet of Fire is far more interesting than this wand fight that they keep cutting back to other things. Whereas the Expecto Patronum scene from Prisoner of Azkaban is not only a pivotal scene, but it's just shot extremely well. It's scored extremely well. Just because it's a blue light, not a stag like it is in the book, diminishes nothing from the scene. It is just extremely great to hear the sound that it makes watching the Dementors scatter, while it is just the bleakest scene leading up to that. This is just because that they were controlling the fate. Harry kept on saying, "Oh, my father's going to show. My father's going to show," and for him to do this at a third year is riveting as hell.
Time. Okay. Stopwatch. Okay. Let's go over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
The question is, what is the most exciting scene, not what is the most impressive spell a wizard can use. Now, his scene is fun. It's emotional. He says, "Expecto Patronum," but you knew halfway towards the end of the movie that Harry was going to show up because of time travel. You saw the recalling effects of Hermione throwing the rock. You saw Hermione doing the wolf sign. So everyone knew at this point that Harry's the one who cast the Patronus. Now, that final battle between Harry and Voldemort was the most epic scene. No one knew, Harry could have died again. You don't know. They've changed the books before. Seeing the final confrontation, seeing all his friends band together to help Harry to finally defeat Voldemort, one of the most exciting scenes. Watching that Elder Wand fly back to Harry was one of the most powerful, hell yeah moment that everyone cheered for. Again, Expecto Patronum, it's a fun movement, but all he did was raise his hand. You saw a blue light. You knew it was going to be him. Not as exciting as my scene. Done.
All right. Okay. Let's bring in the judges. Now the real question is, where's my eraser? I'll figure that out when we're done. All right. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting fight. I think Richard obviously has a huge Wizarding World knowledge. We know that he loves this category. I thought both had good openings, but the opening that had me the most was actually Will. I thought Will painted a more exciting scene, but then I thought during the rest of the fight, Richard did a pretty good job of taking down Will's scene. Will spent a lot of time at the beginning about talking about how we didn't know what was going to happen, stuff like that. And Richard no, you do. It kind of deflates the whole scene, makes it not exciting because literally at every moment we know what's going to happen. Whereas I didn't totally buy into the whole Hollywood changes endings. Harry could have died. Okay, sure. But no, I thought for the most part, Richard did a good job on that one. So, Brian.
For me, there's a couple things that didn't work. When either one of them talks about the anticipation from the readers, they're expecting to see this on screen. I don't care about that. I'm looking at it just the movie. I don't care about what you've read and expectations. The other thing is when people try to attack with that's not even the best one in this movie or the best scene with those two people. It's well, don't bring that up unless it's the scene you chose that's better than that, because otherwise it's just not a relevant scene in the movie. I didn't think either one was super strong in pushing theirs. I thought they were better at attacking the other person. I did think Richard did a little bit better job. I think just because he pointed out how the climax, the key part of the scene Will's talking about, you actually don't even see in his scene. You only know it if you refer back to an earlier scene, which is not the one they were talking about. Whereas in his scene, you're seeing all the action, everything take place.
All right, Kirk, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
I actually went with Will. I think that I think Richard leaned too hard into you don't know what's going to happen because they change things, because that could apply to literally anything in the entire franchise. So I don't know why that makes this one special. I think Will did a better job of building up like how his scene was a payoff to things that were happening in the movie, how it continued to impact the franchise movie, the story moving on. And I think Richard's big attack on Will that, hey, we know this is going to happen because of the time turn and all that. I think Will did a really good job of deflecting that with, well, he thought it was his dad and kind of made us think it was his dad until the last minute. So, yeah, I would have went with Will.
Okay. All right. We are going to move on to the next question. This was in the category of Law and Order, drafted by Will. Your question is, who is the best character in a Law and Order film? Will, you get to kick it off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Well, it's always it's always an easy play to try and go with like one of the the typical heroes of this. I went with easily one of my favorite characters from Die Hard. I went with Zeus from Die Hard with a Vengeance, because this is a guy who he's classified as a good Samaritan, and as much as he hates thinking of himself as that throughout the entire film, he absolutely is. He's there not only to help John in out of a crisis, but he is also there to essentially help his community. When we see him, he essentially John is in a situation where he's about he could easily die from this little stunt that Simon Gruber sends him on. But he actually says, I'm not here to save you. I'm essentially here to save my community. I am here because if you die, if one white guy dies, then there's 10,000 cops who come into my neighborhood causing problems for people like me. And that, that's a great thing to do. He's not only there to save himself, he's not only there to save the day, he's there to save his community. That's why he's the best.
Okay. We are going to move over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
There have been a lot of buddy cop movies, Law and Order movies. There have been so many different Law and Order movies, but I think the best character in a Law and Order movie is a family man, a man who keeps his partner sane, brings the goodness inside of a chaotic mind, and more importantly, he keeps on doing it day in and day out, no matter how old he gets too old for this shit. I am choosing Detective Murtaugh. Murtaugh keeps Riggs sane. He keeps him human. He brings out the best in him while Riggs brings out the best in him. He is a family man. He is always there for Riggs' side. He is always there to back him up, to do the right thing, and to protect his family, to protect the city, to protect the world. I'm going Detective Murtaugh. That's the end of my time.
Okay. All right. We have Murtaugh versus Zeus. 5 minutes when one of you starts.
Zeus was, fine. It's the main thing I have a problem with Zeus. Samuel Jackson does a great job in that. I'm not going to discredit Samuel Jackson, but the problem is he's just there. He's just kind of boring. Compared to other films Samuel Jackson's been in, this is not the one that everyone remembers with him. Pulp Fiction. Even, I'm not going to talk about the future ones, but no one goes back in Samuel L. Jackson's career and say, what's his best film? Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Except when people think of the best Die Hard film, they often will cite Die Hard with a Vengeance because of Samuel L. Jackson's character, because of Zeus specifically. You can't just say that he is just there when he is the one oftentimes dragging dragging John McClane out of things. He is there to pick up the phone call, to make sure that that bombs are not going off when the crunch is. He's the one helping John McClane do the elephant puzzle to make sure a bomb doesn't go off. So no, he is in the thick of it. Also, he is also a family man because he is there trying to save his nephews half the time throughout the movie. So you actually get to see him be a good family man too.
Die Hard with a Vengeance was one of the worst Die Hards of all time. It got 60% Rotten Tomatoes, like mid 80s from the audience. It was one of the least. This movie is what caused Die Hard to fall off. Murtaugh carried 4 films, carried a whole franchise. If you're talking about,
is that why he wasn't top billed?
Sorry, say again.
Is that why he wasn't top billed?
He was one of the top builds.
But but Mel Gibson was the top build every single time, and there's a reason for it. Riggs is the one driving.
Samuel L.
that, not
Jackson wasn't
Murtaugh.
top build in his only appearance.
And yet he's the most memorable. He's one of the most memorable characters in Die Hard, let alone
No,
all
he's
of,
not. Hans
most
Gruber,
certainly is.
the cop from Die Hard, is way more memorable. Justin Long's character in the future of Die Hard films is more memorable than Zeus.
Yeah, I guarantee. Yeah, talk to anyone who has watched the Die Hard films, and they will rip that argument to shreds. But we're not talking about Justin Long. We're talking about Zeus. Zeus is there right from the get-go. We get to see him fast talking. We get to see him being as Samuel Jackson as humanly possible. Telling his sons why do you have this still in stereo? And then they say, oh, well, look, and while everyone else is just standing around watching John McClane have that offensive sign on him, they could have stopped in, they could have stepped in, they could have tried to save the day, they could have tried and save him, but they didn't. Zeus did. Zeus went out there and got him and tried to get him into his store. He's the one who tried to talk down the gang from killing him. And he's the one who ultimately pulls him away when they're ready to kill him. So he is absolutely memorable from the jump.
Murtaugh is also very memorable in Lethal Weapon movies. He has his own catchphrase, I'm too old for this shit. He protects his family. He's the one who keeps Riggs from killing himself throughout the whole movie. He brings his own chaotic energy to balance Riggs.
Absolutely not. Riggs is 100% chaos. He does not need more chaos. In fact, if anything, all Murtaugh does is just make Riggs half the times crazier than any verb before. He's like, oh, look,
I disagree. If anything, Riggs makes
really?
Murtaugh more crazier.
Well, look, okay, but look, if you want to look at their dynamic, look at Lethal Weapon 4. All he keeps doing is posting that article of him, in his little heart underwear, acting like a chicken in front of the flamethrower guy, embarrassing him. He does nothing but embarrass him, and he just keeps on being embarrassed.
And it's one of the most memorable scenes in Die Hard. That's how good
because Mel
is.
Gibson.
He's willing to embarrass himself to save his city, to save his partner.
And he is
Zeus only cares
dragged
about
tooth and nail the
people.
entire time.
He doesn't
doing
even really care about John McClane. Zeus is just there for his own agenda. And he doesn't.
And
really
his own agenda is saving his community, which is very important.
A community is not more important than the whole city, and that's all Zeus ever really cares about is just the community, not the world.
If you understand the dynamic,
of everyone, not just his community, not just his family, but the whole world.
And if you understand the dynamic
about his own people.
And if you understand the dynamics of the 90s with how the African Americans are looked at by the police, you would understand why that is such a pivotal moment for community and therefore also the city. So no, you are 100% wrong. He is there to protect the city. He is out there chasing the bombs just like John is. And he is with
the cop
John.
at Die Hard did a better job than Zeus did.
Really? Because the cop from because John McClane is getting his ass kicked the entire time, where Zeus is actually kicking ass.
Time. Okay, we're going to start closings with Richard on this one. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
My opponent picked an interesting character from one of the worst Die Hard films of all time. I'm not saying Samuel L. Jackson did a bad job. He did a fine job, but it's nowhere near in comparison to Detective Murtaugh. Murtaugh carried 4 films. Carried a franchise, whereas no one remembers Zeus. Everyone talks about Hans Gruber, the cop from Die Hard, or John McClane. Those are the only 3 characters people cared about in the Die Hard franchise. Zeus was just an afterthought. Murtaugh had very comedic scenes, comedic timing, great dialogue, great as a straight man, great as a funny character. He brought balance to Riggs, and he cares about his city. Zeus only cares about his community. That is why Murtaugh is the better Law and Order character, because he cares more about the people than just one group of people. I concede the rest of my time.
Okay. We are going to move over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start.
I hate to break it to you, community is a city, but I digress. The reason why Zeus is infinitely better than Murtaugh is that Murtaugh is half the times being dragged into these misadventures. He's being dragged into the bomb and the bomb scene in Lethal Weapon 3. He's being dragged into investigations that everyone else thinks are just absolutely done and over with. He is being dragged tooth and nail into all of these different things. while Riggs is pushing him to do it. So Riggs is far more interesting than Murtaugh. But Zeus, on the other hand, Zeus is willing to stick his neck out there. It's not his job to do this. He is still doing it. He could have, at any time, he could have walked away and quit, and the rest of the film could have progressed. But it's the fact that he is willing to stick there. It's the fact that he is willing to stick with John and push John and make sure that make sure at the end of the day, after he saves the day, he calls his wife to try and get John to forgive himself. He is a great family man. He's a great character in general.
Okay. Let's bring in the judges.
Oh. Tim, can I hear the question one more time?
Yeah. Who is the best character in a Law and Order film? All right, Kirk, you get to kick us off.
All right. Started out strong from both. I think they both had strong openings. The debate part kind of got lost in the woods. We were talking about a lot of things that didn't necessarily have to do with who was the best character. So I was kind of trying to pull and pick and choose as to what was there. I think Will gave me a little more. I think Richard got stuck in, Rotten Tomatoes and, who was more memorable. And I thought this didn't go towards Mike because Will didn't say this, but I thought it was interesting that he was talking about all these other more memorable characters, but he didn't know any other names. He just talked about who the actors were. So, but I think, it wasn't more memorable really had to do with just who the best character. And I think Will really came in clutch in his closing where he really rattled off a lot of things, shot down a lot of stuff Richard had about, that, Zeus was only interested in this thing, only cared about these certain things. And, how Zeus kind of expanded throughout the film. So I went with Will.
All right. I also went with Will. I thought Will just gave me a lot more examples of what Zeus does in his movie to make him the best character. Richard had a couple things from a couple of the different Lethal Weapon movies, but with 4 movies, there's like tons of examples that Richard, I feel like, overlooked or didn't bring up, and like Kirk said, kind of got stuck in the weeds on some other stuff, where I thought Will did a really good job of kind of nailing down why Zeus is great, and also took Richard's main argument against Zeus and kind of flipped it. So Brian, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone away?
I also will on this one. Like Kirk said, I think that a lot of this argument got lost in the woods, especially on Richard's part, because he started talking about how Samuel L. Jackson was better in other movies, which again, irrelevant, especially since we're talking about character, not performances. There was a whole conversation on who got top billing in movies, Rotten Tomatoes, all these things that really have nothing to do with the character. But in the end, I think Will just did a better job of convincing him that while Murtaugh, is a fun character and all, that Zeus is more layered, especially when he quoted the one line about the 10,000 cows coming in his community, and I think that's very smart to show how he was reluctant. He didn't even really like this guy, but he talked about how he was reluctant, but he was motivated to go along with this to help out and save his community.
All right, so we are tied 1-1. We are going to move on to the third question, which was drafted by Richard in the category of musicals. Your question is, what is the best ending to a non-fandom musical? We're going to start with Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
This is really hard. Like, non-fandom musicals, there's so many, but I chose my favorite ending to a non-fandom musical. I went with The Greatest Showman. P.T. Barnum grew up as a kid with nothing. The only person who ever showed him kindness when he was a kid was someone who looked different, who is shunned to the world. And he grew up, he created a world where people of freaks and people who do not belong finally belonged. And he made mistakes along the way. He got greedy. And at the end of the film, he changed his ways. He left the business, gave his business to his partner, went to be with his family. And I will talk more about it when we do the actual debate. But I think The Greatest Showman ending was not only satisfying, but one of the best endings in non-fandom musical history.
Okay. All right, we are going to move on to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start.
So I went with South Park Bigger and Longer and Uncut because, of course, I did. If you want to talk about like riveting endings, here is a riveting ending. We have an ending that not only people of the show would have just absolutely loved, but but this actually proved that critics who were actually massively sour on the TV show could actually love South Park. You have Cartman going Super Saiyan just by swearing a whole bunch of times because the V chip in his neck, taking out Saddam Hussein. You have the Canadian American War ending because of Kenny's ultimate sacrifice of going, hey, I want all this war to stop. I want I want everything to go back to normal, which means even he has to die. And what happens to Kenny? He goes up and is met with a bunch of big-breasted angels, which is exactly what Kenny would have loved, which is what everyone loves. This is the perfect ending to any musical.
Time. All right. 5 minutes and one of you starts talking.
You first.
So the thing about P.T. Barnum is that it, like, well before this movie came out, it's been known that P.T. Barnum was an absolute scam artist. And so the fact that this movie didn't really touch upon almost anything that he did, the ending, like a nice flowery ending to one of the biggest scam artists of all time, someone who like completely like benefited off of like handicapped people, just seems to ring true quite a bit for this.
Well, first of all, it was loosely based on a true story. And even, he wasn't a perfect man, but he gave people a home, people who were shunned in real life. And people who were part of that acknowledged that he gave them a home. Made them feel accepted. And we're not even talking about who he was in, like, who he actually was. We're talking about the best movie ending. And at my ending, he gave his business to his partner, Philip, who finally got with Anne, the love of his life, who were complete opposites, white and black, who people were shunning because they didn't want, two people of different colors to be together. And they finally, not only with that epic song sequence, when they finally shared that kiss, it was so powerful, so moving.
Except
your ending. Oh, sorry. Your ending is just another typical South Park ending. We've seen it before in South Park constantly. It's not as special as you should think it is.
So let's talk about yours first. First of all, the greatest show is not even the best song in the musical, and that's what they chose to reprise at the end of it. It would have been so much more powerful if they would have done This Is Me, because if what you're describing is actually true, then having everyone reprise This Is Me would have been infinitely better. That would have given everyone the chills, but it didn't. They ended on The Greatest Show, which is, oh, hey, we're looking at a bunch of freaks. Well, that's what
actually they
the
did not end with The Greatest Show. They ended with A Million Dreams towards the bitter end.
Yeah, so then right, you're right. Okay.
The top three songs is The Greatest Show, Million Dreams, and This Is Me. And yes, it is easily the top three songs.
No, this Is Me, I will give you as the number one. But the fact that the end,
we're doing semantics. It's opinion based.
Let me talk.
Yep.
Let me finish a point. The fact that the ending is them essentially whispering that line of A Million Dreams is so forgettable. It's a blink and you miss it. And they end with this cheesy little quote that, for all we know, he probably didn't even say, because P.T. Barnum was one of the greatest liars of all time. Whereas with South Park,
okay, stop bringing. That has nothing to do with historical. Stop bringing that up.
You got to talk. It's my turn. So South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut was absolutely not the typical ending. They had never done anything this big before, and the movie itself was actually a big middle finger to what the MPAA was doing in the first place, trying to ruin a lot of movies at the time. Whereas so ending with a big long uncut swear sequence that causes Cartman to blast the villain to Kingdom Come, that is riveting. The fact that Roger and Ebert, who originally hated the South Park TV show, gave this 2 thumbs up, should prove that this is not nowhere even close to what the TV show is doing.
Roger Ebert 2 thumbs up has nothing to do with the scene. It's the best ending, and we have seen Cartman
you said.
Okay, you are done talking. It's
Let
now my turn.
Let Richard talk.
Again, Kenny dying almost probably killed the show. Kenny died in the series. It almost ruined South Park. And the fact that your ending when Kenny dies is actually quite of a bummer to most people because no one wanted to see Kenny die. The Greatest Showman had one of the best musical with the Greatest Show. That choreography was one of the best choreographies in that movie. Watching Philip and Ann kiss in front of the whole world brought such a tearjerker. And the Million Dreams song was a pure just delight. And you saying it's forgettable, I remember it. A lot of people remember it. Saying just because you don't remember it does not mean majority of people don't. South Park, it was basically the ending of any South Park episode. We've seen it before.
But it's not, because like with, you want to bring up Kenny dying in the show. Yeah, sure. That was they did that well after the fact with this show. But the fact that Kenny not only goes back to dying again, but then we get to see him ascend to heaven. That is awesome. The fact that he gets to, ascend with all of the beautiful, beautiful big-titted angels. That's exactly what Kenny's thing is. Kenny loves big tits. And so seeing him get to fly around with big tits to the ending of the Greatest Show, their show, Stop Her There. No, perfect ending.
All right. We're going to start with Will on this one. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I'm just going to say it again. The big, Kenny ascending to heaven while the last notes of the reprise of Mountain Town play out is just spectacular. This is, it is just exactly what not only fans of the show were looking for, but fans of musicals in general just absolutely love. That's the kind of show-stopping ending that you need. The fact that The Greatest Showman has a lot of great numbers, but then ends with a whisper. Even if you want to ignore the fact that P.T. Barnum's a liar, even if you want to ignore the fact of like that that history showed what kind of trash was going on with the circus at the time, the fact that it ends with a whisper and not a big show-stopping ending should prove that that is not a great ending to any musical, let alone the best ending for a musical in general. Had they ended with "This Is Me," maybe he would have had a point. Had they ended with the full thing of The Greatest Show, maybe he would have had a point. But the fact that they ended on one of the quietest songs out there and in just literally a whisper and a quote, that's not memorable for most musical fans. Whereas my movie, we're ascending to Big Titty Angels, absolutely memorable.
Jesus Christ. Okay. We're going to go over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The question is, what is the best non-fandom scene? It's not memorable. It's what is the best musical ending. My opponent's only argument is P.T. Barnum was not a good person in real life, which has nothing to do with the question. His other argument was it ended with a million dreams with a whisper. A million dreams, dream peaceful, quiet. It what eloquently brought the ending to a close, a soft dream. South Park Bigger Long Cut, it's a fun movie. I love the movie, but it's ends up like any other South Park episode. Cartman getting superpowers. We've seen Cartman with a satellite come out of his ass from aliens. Kenny dying actually was a major bummer for a lot of people because they thought this movie was canon. That means Kenny might not show up. Kenny died again in the series for like 2 seasons, and the show almost got canceled before that. Greatest Showman, the choreography towards the end, this is The Greatest Show, fantastic. The message that P.T. Barnum decided to spend his life with his family, perfect ending.
Time. Okay.
Ooh, a different angle on Kirk.
I was just about to say that.
Was the sun getting in your eye?
No, it was getting on my computer's going to overheat because the sun's right on it, so I had to move into shade here.
And to answer your question, Brian, yeah, I'm probably going to get some flack for that. I will take the hit for that. I can work my way around any swear word. I cannot work my way against big titty angels. I just can't.
Well, at least you can say motherfucker.
No, you can say it.
He has
I know I
headphones.
cannot.
All
Your
right. Brian, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's me. Yeah. Well, first of all, Kenny's died like 100 times on the show. That was the whole thing. Is oh my god, they killed Kenny. So the whole thing about that being a bummer, it didn't really land for me. Will, I Richard was right. I think Will was bringing up this time a lot of things that were not part of the argument, talking about things that were not in the film, things that they didn't cover, that were excluded. You know, these are things outside the film, not the actual ending of the film itself. So that kind of stuff all really didn't work for me. I think that Will did a good job of attacking Richard's, because Richard, a lot of his was talking about how, you know, kind of the theme of, you know, the misfits finding a family, finding a home. But as Will pointed out, that may have been the theme of the film, but that wasn't the ending. The ending didn't focus on this to me. The ending just went for the greatest show. It didn't really represent that theme so much in that finale. In the end, I did vote for Will. I just thought that he did a better job of talking about how his scene kind of was, I don't remember his wording of like the converging of all the storylines with the V-chip and Saddam and then the whole resistance and all that. I think that it all just came together a lot better, both in the music and in the plot.
Okay. Kirk.
Okay. This time I went with Richard. I think Richard really tightened it up in this fight. I think the first two, he was a little all over the place. I think he did a really good job in this one of controlling the pace. And what was talked about, how he shut down a lot of the stuff Will's talked about what's not real life. You know, it's not the whole credits, or critics' reaction to the entire movie. It's just the ending. I think he did more hitting his ending. I think he did a really good job of, focus on the fact that we've seen a lot of these jokes and we've seen a lot of this in South Park before. We really didn't get anything special. The fact that it was, on the big screen. So, I think Richard handled this one pretty well.
Okay, I will decide the point. I went with Richard. Sometimes you could maybe convince me with titties, but this today it was not the day. And I agree with Kirk mostly. I thought critics and didn't matter. I thought the whole I was interested in what Will was saying about the movie just is so big and huge, but then it ends with a whisper. I thought that was a really interesting argument, but I thought Richard did a good job of being that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be this soft, memorable thing. So I thought that was really good. And I thought that Richard did do a good. I agree with Brian's point about Kenny. He's died 1,000 times. Who cares? But I thought that the main crux of Richard's argument of we've seen this before. It's not that interesting. Was pretty cool or pretty good. So I went with Richard. He's up 2-1, which means we're moving on to the final question of the prep round. Will needs to hit this in order to send it to the bonus. So. Question was drafted by Will in the category of comedy. And your question is, which romantic comedy released in 1990 or later has the best central relationship? We're going to start with Will on this one. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
When you think about relationship, what's another word for relationship? Partnership. And so when I think who are the best partners, both romantically and otherwise, I always go. I always go with Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore from Music and Lyrics. Music and Lyrics is easily one of my favorite rom-coms, and the reason is because you actually get to see a great progression with the romantic comedy. You get to see them be writing partners first, and that blooms into this great musical, there's this great relationship that's bound by music and by words and by mutual respect. They're constantly challenging each other. They're constantly bringing themselves back up. They're constantly hugging it out when they're both at their low points. And that's exactly what a partnership should be.
Time. Okay. We are going to move over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
what I think is the best relationship or central relationship in a rom-com is people who first meet, get together, break up, and get back together, and more only that, have the audience and the fans want them to fight together, want them to get together, want them to be together throughout all odds, throughout any obstacle. And that is why I chose Henry and Lucy from 50 First Dates. Henry was a guy at first who was afraid of commitment, would always find the most outrageous ways to get out of relationships. And then in a diner, he meets Lucy, someone who he instantly falls for. Of course, we find out Lucy has brain damage where she forgets everything in one day. But Henry, ever since that, realized that, has worked every single day to make Lucy fall in love with him every single day. And I think they are the best relationship because that's what is a relationship that people want to have when they're watching rom-coms. I can see.
Okay, we are going to move to the main round. So 5-minute free form when one of you starts.
Well, I'll let you go first.
Is it really true love if you have to convince your person day in and day out to love you?
Yes, because that's how a relationship should be. For it, even in real life, that you want to treat your woman like every day is the first date. Absolutely.
So the big problem with Lucy and Henry though is the fact that there's lots of things that go on throughout the course of the movie that happen at the end where Lucy had flat out said, I didn't want to have happen. She flat out says, I don't want to be pregnant in my condition, and he impregnates her. So he's not honoring her wishes. That's not what a partnership is.
Again, we don't know what Lucy really wanted because she was traumatized. She was traumatized when she first found out about her memory, but as they got together, she realized this is what she wanted.
She flat out tells him, I do not want to be pregnant in my condition, and he still impregnates her. Here's the thing, Richard, with that little videotape stuff that happens, is that it's obvious that Henry is really good at video editing, but he's not including the peaks and valleys, which a real relationship is based on. He's showing a fairy tale romance to someone who cannot remember anything.
It cuts out multiple times throughout that scene. You don't know what was actually on the full video. She didn't watch the full video all the time. And it cuts back and forth in the scene. Let's talk about your movie.
We see multiple times of the videos, and no bad stuff is ever in the video beyond the head trauma. Go.
Okay, first of all, music and lyrics, boring ass movie. I'm sorry, Hugh Grant, not a great actor. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sure you love Hugh Grant. That's just my personal opinion. But the point is, I don't think the audience and the fans buy him as a former 80s pop star.
Why not?
Because
he has a great singing voice and he has great dance moves, as we've seen in other films.
He was lip singing the whole time and auto-tuned.
It was not.
Yes, it was.
He's actually credited in the soundtrack of having vocals.
And he also admitted in an interview that they tweaked his voice quite a bit in that.
Just because they tweak a voice doesn't mean that it's not him initially singing. And just because he's lip syncing doesn't mean that he's not.
Also, I'd also say Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore do not have great chemistry together. Like, Drew did a fine job. But again, there is just no chemistry. Hugh Grant's only thing in the 90s and early 2000s is that he's British. He phoned in quite a bit outrageous. Okay, that's okay. First of all, why is your central relationship better than my central relationship?
Because it starts off as a simple partnership. It starts off by two people needing something. Sophie needs to feel that she can write, needs to feel that she has, she can actually use her creative outlet to do something. Alex is against the wall, and he needs Sophie to help write lyrics because he is a terrible lyricist.
So what you're saying is Alex is using Drew's character.
Let me finish. There is no using in here. He is asking her to help. She is helping, but they challenge each other. That's not using. They're challenging each other every single time. She says, well, can't you can always do this, you can always do that, and he hums and haws, but then he tries it and he succeeds. He does the same thing. Hey, wouldn't it be great if wouldn't it be great if you could abandon your checkered past, write a
Okay,
great hit song,
you're
and be
talking a lot. Let me say some things. Henry and Lucy, Lucy finds out about her condition. Left her, obeyed her wishes, but then he realized that Lucy actually remembered her, turns around, and when Henry asks Lucy to remember her, she says no. In the audience, you can feel that awe, but she dreams about him every day. Hugh Grant's character in Music and Lyrics is only using her for his own success. You can say that Drew Barrymore had a mutual relationship with that, but no, it was really Hugh Grant using her.
and if you look at that last scene of the concert where he actually is actually able to find in his heart to actually write music and lyrics,
and you can see
to
the
try and win
of
Sophie
50
back,
First Dates,
and that
Lucy
is
hugs her
magical.
child, is like, oh my goodness, she is so happy. That debate, she's saying that she never wanted to get pregnant because she absolutely wanted to get pregnant.
She flat out says, I do not want to be pregnant in there. That's almost a direct quote from the movie. Where he actually wins it back is stunning.
Oh, whoa! Stunning. Strike it from the record. So brutal. Okay, we are going to start with Richard on this one. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Henry and Lucy have the best relationship because their relationship is what every person who watches rom-coms want there to be treated like every day is a first date, that every day to be together no matter what obstacle. And yeah, she said one time that she didn't want to get pregnant, but she also said another time that she wanted Henry to leave, but wanted Henry to come back. You don't know the trauma of head injuries. When you finally accept who you are, you can change your mind, which she absolutely did. Henry and Lucy's relationship solidifies what every person wants from a rom-com, a ideal relationship. Whereas Hugh Grant, he does what Hugh Grant movies always does. He's British. That's about it. He uses Drew Barrymore's character for his own success. And yes, they end up getting together. He end up being the good man. But it's not as strong as Henry and Lucy's relationship in 50 First Dates. Done.
Okay, we're going to move over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Showing partner who can't remember things from a day-to-day basis, only the good parts of your relationship is not being a good partner. That is flat out lying to your partner, acting like you have a storybook romance when you don't. Whereas with Sophie and Alex from Music and Lyrics, they start off as a partnership. Neither of them are using the other person. They are there mutually. They're both getting credit for the song they're doing this. They're trying to elevate each other. She is a writer. She's a great writer, and she has never been acknowledged as a great writer. And so she is taking this opportunity to put herself out there to do this. Alex is putting himself out there, trying to be relevant again. And they find this mutual respect, this mutual challenging of each other that forms a great partnership, not only in a professional aspect, but eventually a love aspect as well, to the end where they also have their trials and tribulations. But the end where he writes, "Don't write me off just yet," is absolutely stunning, and that's a perfect rom-com moment.
Okay, we will be right back because we lost Kirk in the middle of Will's closing, so we're gonna get him caught up to speed, and we'll be right back with the verdict. Okay, there was something really funny that not that somebody said it well, kind of, but Richard said at one point, like, in rom-com movies, like, audiences love to see the romance. They get together, they break up, they get back together. Like, that's something that people, which he's not wrong. That's definitely like a trope of the rom-com, something I enjoy as well as a lover of these films. But then I loved how during his closing, he was like, it's the perfect relationship that everyone wants to have. And I was like, I don't want to break up with my wife and then get back together. Like, I want to stay. I don't want the turmoil part, but I get what he was saying. I just thought it was funny. Ultimately, I went with Will. I love 50 First Dates. Like, love that movie. That is a Tim movie. And I've only seen Music and Lyrics once. It was when it came out. I don't really remember much about it. But I thought Will did an excellent job picking apart 50 First Dates. I think Richard did a good job kind of clawing back, being like, you know, at one, like his point during, I believe it was during his closing, he said, you know, at one point, yeah, she said she didn't want to be pregnant, but she also at one point said, you know, I don't want to see you anymore, but then she dreams about him every night and does want to be with him. So her people's minds can change and stuff. That was a good point. But Will kind of came right back at it and was like, but Henry's cherry picking the things that he's showing to her. It's kind of creepy. It's weird. So I thought that was a really good argument against it. So though I love 50 First Dates, I went with Will. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is another argument kind of went a lot of different places. I did want to give some extra ghost bonus points to Richard, because at one point he'd stopped and says, no, wait a minute. So why is your relationship better than the relationship in my movie? Got things back on track. So thank you for that. Overall, I've seen both of these movies. I don't really remember either of these movies. So I'm going purely by the arguments. The whole thing about impregnating against your will was really a little disturbing, but I think that he had some decent defenses for that, talking about things she said later on or other points in the movie. For me, I did end up going with Richard in the end of this. I think that he just expressed for me a little more why, you know, it's a more unique relationship and how he's trying to like win her over like every day. And it's just kind of, there was something to that. Whereas with music and lyrics, just, you know, they were, you know, basically partners first in music and a business relationship, and then it grew into love. It's kind of like every relationship in a rom-com. So,
Kirk, you decide this one.
Interesting back and forth. But harkening back to what Brian said, what made this point for me is when Richard said, tell me why your relationship is better. And I think Will picked up that ball and ran with it and gave a really good, succinct explanation of why his is better. I don't think Richard was able to recover from that. I feel like from the top, I feel Will just had a really strong, you know, argument talking about, hey, my relationship is, you know, based on something, you know, and it grew and all these things. And when he started hitting it, like people talk all the time about how problematic 50 First Dates is. Like, I think sometimes it's overblown, but I really like how Will talked about the video. I never really thought about it before, how he kind of like, you know, like fairy tale editing, where he's just showing all the high spots and nothing else. So I think that was good. I think Richard got back in the corner, started talking about Hugh Grant's performance in the singing, and really didn't have anything to do with the relationship. So I think Will took control of this pretty early, and Richard gave a valiant effort, but just wasn't able to recover.
Yeah, I've seen that movie 1,000 times. I've never thought about the fairy tale editing thing as anything but sweet. But yeah, you're totally right. Okay, we're gonna get into the bonus round. Here's how it's gonna work. I randomized what side of Fanzone this was gonna come from, and then I randomized the remaining categories that weren't picked in the main round. So I'm going to say the category, and then I'm going to tell you the question. Once I have said the question, I will repeat the question a second time. Once I have repeated the question, you may say your answer. Whoever says their answer first will be going first. You will each get 45 seconds, and then you will each get 30 seconds. Any questions from the players about how the speed round is going to work?
Can we look up if we don't know exactly?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
All right. So the side of Fanzone that was randomized was fandom. The category that was randomized was Pixar. And the question is, who is the best Pixar villain? Again, who is the best Pixar villain?
I'm going to say Syndrome.
Lasseter. Sorry.
Say it again, Will.
I'm going to say Syndrome.
Okay.
I will go Randall from Monsters Incorporated.
All right, so editing. We're doing Randall versus Syndrome. We're gonna take out Kirk and Brian. I'm gonna say on screen. Will, you spoke first, so you were gonna start. You have 45 seconds for Syndrome when you start talking.
The reason why Syndrome is the best Pixar villain is because his motivations actually are kind of understandable given his history, where he was shunned by by not only supers but his favorite super of all time in Bob Parr as Mr. Incredible. He was just absolutely like thrown to the side, and so he decided not only to take his anger out on Mr. Incredible, but on the on supes in general, like stealing their powers, doing like this, just annihilating them one by one. You actually get to see the results of like these piles of bodies. That's just absolutely creepy. Like Syndrome is just creepy in general.
Time. Okay. Richard, 45 seconds.
A villain should only just be a villain just because they're just terrible people at heart. Randall just feeds off just scaring children. He loves being a monster. He loves terrifying innocent kids. He is a villain because he just is a bad person. Randall betrays people. He will terrify anyone. He harms Boo, which is a national treasure to many people. Randall is a villain because he's just straight up evil. And that is all I'm going to say for this book.
Okay. I don't know that that's ever happened.
Oh, wait,
Will,
wait, is this a rebuttal? Was this just like the introduction, or is this like a rebuttal? I'm sorry.
We're going. Will, you have 30 seconds now.
Shit. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Randall likes scaring children. That's what they did until they discovered that laughter is the most valuable resource. Whereas Syndrome took what he had, like decided, became like the super genius inventor to not only kill all these supers, but essentially siphon their powers to create this this giant machine to essentially help to take over the world and become like the hero and give away superpowers. So therefore, no one is going to be super ever again. That's terrifying.
Time. Richard, you have 30 seconds.
You said yourself, Syndrome was only a villain because of when he was a childhood. If Mr. Incredible would have just befriended him, he wouldn't have been a villain. And you're saying, like, yeah, circumstances happen, but you already said it's a villain you understand, you relate to. That's not a villain. You're not supposed to relate to the villain. It's good and evil. You want to root for the bad guy. Randall, you root against. You want him to lose, and he does lose. Syndrome only wants to help people. Make money, but he is going to try to help people with powers.
Time. All right. We're going to bring in the judges.
I am so sorry. I completely forgot about that 45 seconds. I thought we were just doing an introduction news. I would not have conceded, but I did. Good game regardless, man.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Kirk, kick us off.
Okay. I think these are the two right choices, or two of the rightest choices.
Yep.
You could have for Pixar villains, two classics. Came at it very different ways. One was, hey, just this guy's pure evil. The other one is, well, this one is, has a motivation. I think I went with Will because I just liked his argument better that, yeah, this is a villain that has some depth and has something to it. And Richard even kind of confirmed that in his second portion there, where he was like, yeah, you know why he's doing this. You understand it. If Mr. Incredible wouldn't have done these things, he wouldn't be a villain. And that's exactly what Will's making him say it was interesting. So he kind of made the argument for him. So, and I think his argument for Randall, where he's just evil, I guess. But like I said, Will just gave me a little more meat on the bone.
Okay. Yeah, I was waiting for Will to bring up Monsters University and just be like, we saw him as like a good dude. Like, yeah. He has motivations for hating Sully specifically, like very clearly. Like that's
I try not to do things like that.
Very, very laid out. But that being said, that didn't hurt Will. He didn't say it. I was just thinking it in my head. But based on the arguments, I agree with Kirk. I went with Will. I think that Will did a really good job explaining, the motivation, but also just like why after his motivation, like you get why he's such a dick, but also like he's pure evil. And I liked Richard's argument. I love Randall. I love Monsters Inc. if my favorite movie, if not second favorite. So I think that he did a good job kind of talking about Randall being just like an evil monster who just wants to hurt kids, and that's terrible and that's terrifying. But I agree with Kirk that Will just gave a little more meat on the bone, as he said. Brian.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Pretty much the same reason you guys said. I think that Will just did a better job of giving some more explanation to his character's motivations and origins and stuff, whereas Richard's argument was basically he's bad, he's evil. That was all I got for it.
All right, well, that means your winner is Will Cohen. We are going to do some post-match interviews. We're going to start with Richard. Richard, thoughts on the match today?
Oh, it was fun. Yeah, I was proud of my performance. You know, we got to the final round, and you know, Pixar, not one of my strengths. I literally had to look someone up. Again, he made a good choice with Syndrome. Again, I also forgot about the 45 second. I thought you know we're going back and forth. That was multiple. That was my bad. But I did my best, and I look forward to my next match whenever that is. Can't wait for it. It's gonna be fun. I'll do better.
Richard, I think you always do a great job. You have your strengths, and you like absolutely use an advantage on them. But I think today Will came out swinging. But it was a good performance nonetheless, because you had a clean sweep. You had a some really tight ones there. So on the whole, I thought it was a good performance, and I agree. We'll see you back, and it'll be a good one. I hope so. Richard, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. Let's bring in the winner, Will. Will, first win on the record, 1-3 now. How are we feeling?
This is the first win I've had in any debate form in about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So this is more emotional than I thought it was going to be. I'm really trying not to lose my shit here right now, if I'm being completely honest.
No,
Richard gave me a tougher battle than I was anticipating, to the point that I thought that I had actually lost that rom-coms round, especially with the way that Kirk started by going, "Oh, I agree with what Brian was saying." I'm like, fuck. And so, but then he's like, "Oh, but he picked up the ball and ran with it." I'm like, "Oh," so it's, I don't know. Especially like having someone like Kirk, like get the votes, like seeing what kind of beast he is in debate, like, and what kind of beast I'm not in debate, like really is humbling. We'll just say. So, Richard's a great guy. He's a great competitor, obviously. I am stunned and humbled by this, is all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you. It was a great win, and yeah, Richard did great, and you did great. And unfortunately, because the season is short for Fanzone, this is your last match of the year. But you're going to be back next year.
I got 2 matches 1 year.
I know, it's crazy. But you'll be back next season.
Considering I didn't have a match in 2024 at all.
Yeah, that was a time. But yeah, no, we'll see you back pretty early next season. I'm looking forward to it, Will. We'll see if you can get another win on the record. It's going to be great. So that's going to do it for us today at Fanzone Debate. Thank you so much to Brian and Kirk. Kirk stepping in real last minute to make this one happen today. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you to Richard. Thank you to Will. Thank you to all the people who make this show run that aren't here, like Mark and Nick. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time with another great match. Until then, bye.
There we go. Thanks a lot. Come again.
Hey, I won't forget what you've done for me here today.
I would prefer that you do.